All right, guys. I have one of my fellow podcasters and coaches on the show, Renee, to talk shop about recovery and repair. And of course, that goes with talking about sleep for athletes and for everyone to improve just performance in life. It's just, sleep is huge. So I really want to dive into all this information with Renee. Thank you for sharing your busy day with me.
Yes, of course. I'm so excited to be here and to chat with you, fellow podcast buddy.
Yeah, I know. We like text all the time, and I message and follow you on Instagram, and you and your sister do the Biohacker Babe show. Talk a little bit about your purpose and your mission working with your sister. It's pretty exciting, cool journey, I think, of what you guys are all about.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I mean, first of all, it's super fun getting to work with my sister. It's like an excuse to talk to my sister every single day of the week, it's really brought us even closer. I mean, we were close growing up, but getting to talk every day is pretty awesome. So yeah, the Biohacker Babes, I mean, our mission is to really help everyone become a biohacker. We want it to be kind of just the standard thing that everyone is doing, not this like weird thing where people are editing their genes and putting magnets under their skin. Like, we want to bust all those myths and just make it all about health optimization and really personalizing it. And Debbie, I know you're really big on personalized nutrition and fitness plans and all of that. And I think that's where biohacking can be really helpful, because we're teaching people how to look at their data, listen to their intuition, and put that all together and figure out what works best for them. And that's what biohacking is. It can be that simple, right? It can be the free stuff, walking outside in the sunshine, or it can be using an Oura ring to track your sleep. I mean, there's just such a wide spectrum.
Yeah, that was my question is, what is biohacking? So it's just personalizing and experimenting to be your best self.
I mean, anything that's going to impact your biology for the better. So whether that's something external, a device that you're using, or your environmental toxins, reducing that, or what you're putting in your body, right? Supplements, nutrition, your exercise plan. Anytime you are tweaking something and then seeing how your body reacts to it and noting that, that's biohacking. Yeah. So more people are biohackers than even know.
Yeah, they don't really know, because that's even when the new thing of everyone's, Oura ring, I see advertised on TV now. and
it's really crazy.
It's just how much has grown is pretty amazing since, I've been in this space for 10, 15 years. And, all these words, keto and fasting, intermittent fasting and biohacking, we didn't really have a term for it back then, and how to measure things and test and not guess. But now it's becoming so mainstream, and people don't almost always know that what is biohacking. They hear the word, if they followed Dave Asprey from the beginning, kind of started the biohacking world almost, but it is really something people all can do or may do already every day. So,
yeah. I actually saw on some wellness magazine. Oh, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Did I freeze?
Yeah. There you go. Okay. Bad connection today.
Yeah. On a wellness magazine, I was at a doctor friend of mine, his office, and in the lobby on the front of the wellness magazine, it said, "What is biohacking?" I was like, oh my goodness, that's like mainstream to see it on a magazine like that. So it's pretty exciting stuff.
I even saw a bus here in San Diego go by us that had an ad for keto on it. It was tequila or something, but it's so funny that it's like, all right, we've come a little far when keto is advertised on semi trucks or buses going by. It's funny.
So we're headed in the right direction.
But talk about your story of how you guys even got into this space. I think it's such a great story to share.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, we always say we kind of grew up with like the OG biohacker, our dad. He was back in the, I guess, early 80s, kind of getting into this stuff. He was buying the infrared sauna and the vibration plate. He had a PEMF device and a low level laser. He was importing things from Europe that you couldn't even buy in the US at the time. And we just thought, like, our dad is so crazy. What is all this stuff he's into? And a lot of that kind of stemmed from him being a biological dentist. And I would love to share that story real quick, how he got into that, because I think this is so fascinating. It really set us up for this whole journey. So my dad was practicing traditional dentistry all through the 70s into the 80s. And then in 1985, his best friend at the time was diagnosed with stage 4 melanoma. He was given 3 to 6 months to live. They said, go home, get your papers together. Like we can't even treat your cancer. It's too far. And this like tough Italian guy was like, yeah, screw you. I'm not dying from this cancer. He flew from the East Coast out to California to a holistic alternative cancer clinic, which was like hard to even find in the 80s. Right. But he got out there, and when he got in, he said, open your mouth. All of the metal in your mouth has to come out before we can treat your cancer. He flies home, tells my dad's like, what do those mercury silver fillings have to do with your cancer? Boom, light bulb went off, changed his whole career, stopped placing mercury fillings. And he was kind of led him down this path of holistic health. And good news, his friend is still alive today.
Nice.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So we kind of grew up with like holistic health in our house, and
So cool.
we both went off to college. My sister and I went separate ways. She went more the fitness route. I went more the nutrition route, and both got really sick in different ways. I mean, I had, I think similar to you, Debbie, like adrenal issues, HPA axis dysfunction, just couldn't sleep enough. I had brain fog, chronic fatigue. And as a biohacker, I basically healed myself because there was no one practitioner out there that could figure out what was happening. And so a long story long, Lauren and I decided, why don't we come back together and do something as sisters? We're in the same industry and we're so fortunate to have that.
Mm-hmm.
And she's in New York City, I'm in Vegas. So we said, why not do a podcast? We can do that from anywhere in the world. And
that's so cool. When did you start it?
June 2019.
That's great. Yeah, I think, it's just since we started this podcast, it originally was Fit, Fat, Fast 10 years ago.
Oh, I didn't know it had a different name.
Yeah,
Okay.
John Smith was the co-host he started it and I was helping, and then he had to step away from the podcast, but we lost something happened. He lost the hosting, Libsyn, something got lost. So we had to restart, and it's just so many things we talked about back then, metabolic efficiency and being fat adapted. It was literally 10 years ago. So it's been kind of fun journey talking about these different topics. But over the years, I kind of put together the holistic method to be fit and healthy from the inside out. It's not just talking about nutrition and exercise. We need to talk about, of course, stress management, and constantly talk about sleep and movement throughout the day, digestion, gut health, hydration. Happiness and play, laughter is such a big thing for me, because I think so many of us athletes are that type A, AAA driven, ambitious, high performing individuals that we take everything so seriously. And I think that leads us to overdoing everything, and more is better philosophy that can actually, kick you in the rear and cause all this dysfunction if we don't pay attention to those red flags. So really teaching people, athletes of all levels, but just like, here's the Goldilocks effect, not too much, not too little, kind of what you're saying, biohack, N=1 experiment, course correct, find out what works best for you as an individual, because all this information out there is just kind of a template. And then now how do I personalize it to make me the best person that I can be, to live my best life, feel my best, and look my best as I age. So it's just important that we're all working on this together. It's great.
Yeah. So many factors to look at. And that's so cool how long you've been podcasting. I love it. It's great.
Well, it's not like we're Ben Greenfield size here, but I do it because I love it. I'm not, I just, stepped away last fall and like, am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And finding your purpose. And I feel like, okay, I need to step out there and talk about less is more for the athlete, because everyone I find going down this rabbit hole into fasting and doing too low carb and thinking carbs are evil. And even though this show is called The Low Carb Athlete, it doesn't mean zero carbs. It doesn't saying I need to be in nutritional ketosis all the time. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to be doing all my workouts fasted. So really trying to break those myths that it isn't more is better, because everyone else that's not talking towards the athlete is saying, 20, 50 grams of carbs, do intermittent fasting. And, we talk a lot that with Ben Greenfield, that is for women, it's a little bit different. So.
Oh yeah.
Anyways,
yeah. Well, low carb itself, can mean so many different things. Is low carb to you 20 grams, 100 grams? Like everyone's different.
I know. That's what I say. And low carb could be 100 to 200 grams a day. or it
Right.
could be 50. It just is different.
Right.
And then for women, so different. So
Oh,
what do you
yeah.
find is your passion, your purpose, and your why right now in your world of coaching people?
Yeah, gosh, that's such a good question. I think I'm always like rethinking this question, especially as a Ben Greenfield coach, because he's so big on purpose. And I'm I'm really spending more time focusing on the podcast lately because I really feel more passionate about reaching a larger number of people, being able to get my word out to hundreds, thousands of people every week versus one-on-one clients. I mean, you can only help so many people within the day, right? There's only so many hours. I do love that. And I love working with the one-on-one clients to do more fine tuning. I do a lot of lab testing and is similar to you with FDN, and really personalizing the plan. But I think the podcasting is really what I'm loving right now. Just being able to talk to so many different experts in the field, and we got to get you on the show soon too. We need to schedule that, but learning from people, it's almost selfish, right? As podcast hosts, we get to learn from some of the top experts in the field and ask our own questions. But just, we can change lives all around the world this way.
That's so true. Cause I even was telling myself that, why I wanted to keep the podcast going is because I enjoy it talking to the guests on the show and the people that we meet. It's like, I don't care if anyone's listening or not. As long as I connect and just meeting these amazing people that are guests on the show as yourself, and just having these relationships so we can see each other at Paleo Facts and at different conferences, and really connect live. So I hope
the networking.
But networking is really fun. So today I really want to talk about a topic we were talking about in our Ben Greenfield program, recovery and sleep. Because I just actually shared this morning on my Facebook group page, our keto endurance page, I help do some posts for, but checking your aura scores or Whoop and really using that data. I was listening to a podcast today and they were saying, so many athletes, again, driven, ambitious athletes, you get the data, but they don't do anything with it. Like my workout still says I have to do this today, but my readiness score is crap and my HRV just dropped 50 beats, but I'm still going to do what I'm going to do. So it's really learning how to take all this data from like our CGMs and from our Whoop or whatever device you're wearing or using to get your heart rate variability, get your deep and REM sleep and tracking it, and then using tags to know what works and what doesn't work, right? So what kind of big areas are your why to focus on recovery and sleep?
Yeah, I really love this topic. Even though my background's primarily nutrition, that's what my master's is in, but I love the topic of sleep and recovery. And I mean, personally, I was somewhat of an athlete. I was a professional ballet dancer, which is, very similar. You're in the ballet studio multiple hours a day, 7 days a week. And I ended up with 2 stress fractures in my SI joint because I was under eating. I was overtraining. Recovery days didn't exist. I didn't even know what that term was. There definitely was no Oura Ring or Whoop band back then. And so I kind of had to learn the hard way how important recovery is. So now today I really, really focus on looking at my Oura Ring, my BioStrap. I haven't used Whoop. I hear that's great more for athletes to optimize your athletic performance. But I think with the data, everyone's different. Like I look at my data and I never get upset about it. I know some people do. They let it ruin their day. So I would say number one, learn that about yourself and figure out the sweet spot for that. But if you're a professional athlete and you do wake up and you have a bad score, you really have to remember you're not going to see the same results in the gym that day when you're not recovered. It's not worth it. It's better to take the day off, do some, mobility, active recovery, yoga, go for a walk, grounding, earthing, take a nap, meditate, do all those other things so that the next day your recovery score will be even higher. And then you can really hit it hard. And that's where you're going to see all the benefit. I know if you don't have the luxury of rescheduling your stuff, I don't know if you can talk to the trainer and say, hey, my HRV was down today. I got to do something different. Because you're just not going to see the results when you're pushing through that. And I'm not saying go out and trash your body Saturday night, wake up Sunday morning with a bad recovery score and say, screw it. I'm just going to lay in bed today. My recovery score is bad, right? No, it's more, is your recovery score bad because you worked out too hard the day before, your mental stress, your emotional stress was too high, you had too much sugar, maybe, you know, life happens, but optimizing that as much as we can.
Yeah. And it's also different stressors that impact our recovery score and our sleep, and learning how even, you know, I have my CGM here to put on because I need to put it back on for my next one, but it's putting all this data together. I think is so fascinating. And how, for me, it's looking at how stress impacts my glucose levels on the CGM, and how what I eat and what I do impacts my score. I use Oura Ring, but you know, it's just such good information. For years before these devices came out, I used heart rate variability testing, you know, get the old fashioned way. We put a heart rate strap on and then lie there, use Sweet Beat app for 3-5 minutes and test it. But, you know, it's just how you can see what impacts your body in a positive or negative way and really figure that out. Because it's always what we say as FDN practitioners with lab testing, test and not guess. And I think that's with these different devices, testing, am I actually recovered? Because I think we're all so driven, ambitious that we override that feeling of fatigue and just push through it. Like, I'm tougher, more resilient if I can just go beyond this. And I think that's where so many athletes of all levels get themselves in trouble and go down towards adrenal fatigue issues, because we're thinking, oh, don't be a wimp, I can do this, and ignore all the
sleep when I'm dead.
flags. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I'm glad you pointed out the CGM. I think, if everyone in the world could have a CGM, I mean, it would be in a much better place for metabolic health and overall health. But my sister, she actually works for Levels. So she sees amazing data every day from people on their CGMs. And she said what they're eating is the smallest part of what's impacting their glucose. Like, she'll get these people they're biohackers, their diet is perfect, you know, and she's like, why are they getting these spikes? And she's a detective, and she figures out, oh, they had water with their meal. How many people are drinking water with their meal? Like, all the time. Or my kid ran in the room screaming during that one meal, or I went in the infrared sauna. I mean, she's having to like look at every other detail. The actual food is not the biggest part of glucose spikes.
I was telling that I did a podcast with a company doing CGM work. And I said, you know, I'm not doing it for my food as much as when I'm in traffic going down this road with a slow driver and I can't pass him, my glucose goes up. Or if I'm in a meeting on a phone call and I'm not really stressed feeling, it will go up to like 140 or something. So it's just getting that information to learn about who I am and how I react with stress. Obviously, I got adrenal exhaustion, so I'm prone to more, area of opportunity to work on my stress response to stressors, and knowing those. And this is how I could figure them out more without, because you don't really know it. So you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't think I was stressed. But how your body responds in those different situations, as well as at nighttime when people are sleeping. I have a client that I'm tracking his glucose and it's up to 150 overnight. It's like, what's going on with your body? So it is really investigating, find out those different stressors, hidden internal stressors, as well as the external stressors, as you know, including of course your food.
Right. Yeah. The data cues you into so much. And actually I saw a colleague of mine, she was showing me her client's HRV data, and she was having a drop in HRV and a spike in wakefulness between 1 to 3 every night. Couldn't figure out what it was. She started doing castor oil packs on her liver. Within a couple of days, gone.
Yeah. That castor oil, I've done a few podcasts with Queen of Thrones. She does
the
castor oil. Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to listen to that.
She's awesome. And she, you know, you get just a pack and you would never think, you know, it's like Vibrant Blue oils, put essential oils on behind your ear and your vagal nerve, or I've been using it on my small intestines, rubbing it in there, circular motion before bed, and using the castor oil packs. It's amazing. But again, those are kind of things that's so nice to be able to have the money to get an Oura Ring or something, so you could see, is it working or not? Because you think it's hocus pocus, but then you see your numbers improve, and it really is. For me, invest, you know, I think Oura's $300. I don't know how much a Whoop is, probably the same. I think it's a good investment.
Oura's my go-to.
Yeah, I don't want to wear a wrist. The thing with Whoop, if people don't know the difference, Oura is a ring on your finger, and whichever finger you want to get it for. And then Whoop is on your wrist. So if you don't I don't like wearing 2 watches because I'm going to have my Garmin and
I
you
got
have
my
a
BioStrap on.
a BioStrap. And then, there's Apollo watch and then there's, having a whoop. It's like you can have 4 things tied on your wrist. And then I like to wear jewelry. So
there's no room for jewelry.
Yeah.
You can't, I have the Apollo. I have the Apollo on my ankle. I look like I just escaped from prison, but
I was listening to Ben's podcast. He was talking about Apollo on his ankle, then something else on his head and all that. I'm like, you could just really get geeked out on all this stuff.
Yeah.
But let's talk about free ways that you don't need to buy anything. Cause I always like to share that with people. Instead of having to buy all these devices that I swear I get inundated every day with emails of some new product and some new supplement. But how can we improve recovery and, sleep is kind of hand in hand without having to spend any money? What are your favorite little strategies to work on that?
Yeah, great question. I think number one thing for recovery that should be free is sleep optimization. So the 8-9 hours a night you're sleeping, your body should be repairing and recovering overnight. If you're not sleeping well, that's the next question, right? But there's a lot of free sleep hacks. I would say, make sure your bedroom is completely dark. If you can't afford blackout shades and all the fancy stuff, just get an eye mask on Amazon. Got to be dark at night. Get your bedroom cool. Turn the thermostat down. 65 to 67 degrees seems ideal for most people. If you can get the fancy chili pad or the Oler, that's great too, but just turn the thermostat down. Get off the electronics 2 hours before bed. No blue lights, the best you can, turn off the overhead lights, light some candles, put the night mode on your phone, get off the TV, go read a book. All the free basic sleep hygiene stuff. I think people overlook that and they're running around. They get in bed and they're like, I can't fall asleep. It's like, your body wants some time. Your body needs like an hour or 2 of, hey, we're getting ready for bed. This is time to close some stuff down. It doesn't just happen in a minute. So the free biohacks for your sleep, that would be my number one thing. Mm-hmm. Next, for sleep optimization, of course, you can get the sleep trackers, you can get the fancy tech, supplements, magnesium, amino, CBD oil. Of course, those can be really good for sleep too, but sleep optimization, number one for recovery. And I think every aspect of your health, you're going to naturally lose more weight. You're going to want to eat better. You're going to have more energy to exercise. You're going to be nicer to your friends and family. Just get that sleep under control. That's number one. Other recovery stuff, use nature to your advantage. I mean, grounding and earthing, totally free. Just find a patch of grass or dirt or sand, or if you're lucky like you to be near the beach, that would be so nice. Just get your feet on the earth, because the negative ions that we're getting from the earth are natural for recovery. Mm-hmm. I mean, it boosts your mood, clears up that brain fog, gives you a little energy. It's a little bit harder here in the desert, to be honest, to find some good grounding. And then there's technology to help you ground, right? There's the grounding sheets, grounding mats, grounding shoes, and so on. But the more you can get out in nature, that's best. And then sunshine. Sunshine is like the missing nutrient, I think. We get so much benefit from that. I mean, supporting our circadian rhythm, our cortisol levels, the natural blue light we get from the sun is really important. So getting out in the sunshine at least the first 30 minutes of waking every morning. Mm-hmm. Also great for sleeping. People forget that morning sunshine actually helps you fall asleep at night. So that is,
that's how isn't it? The melatonin's produced in the morning and then we release it at night. I've heard some melatonin
I haven't heard that.
Yeah. It's like when seeing the sun, name is, the Florida guy with the Mitozen talking about melatonin, but how you make it in the morning and at nighttime it's released. So really how we start the day is so effective to how you sleep at night is a big one. And I try to get out at sunrise and we exercise in the morning outside. I don't have children, so it's easier not to have to deal with kids going to school in the morning. So I'm a little more flexible.
I know. I'm so spoiled.
Yeah.
So spoiled.
So we try to go outside and, I was going to get t-shirts made. The Dawn Patrol. It's for surfing. I learned is the Dawn Patrol when surfers are out right when sun is coming up, but we started running at the beach when the sun's coming up. So I'm calling it Dawn Patrol for runners, but it's just such a
Cool.
magical time of the day to get out. If I've always been an early bird, so it's easy for me, but if you can get out sunrise, it just gets your mind right and just starts your day in a positive note, as well as helps your sleep. But I just think,
and you get the red light. You get the
Yeah.
natural red light. You don't even need a red light device.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I have my higher dose face mask I've been wearing
Oh,
in the
nice.
mornings. Like, well, then I go outside. So it's just good, but it is all these different things we have, I think, evolve because we're not outside, because we're not cold. We're not getting that hot cold because we put the heater on and we put the air conditioner on. We're not letting
Right.
ourselves naturally adapt and build resiliency, having this variation in everything we do. And we don't go outside in the morning. And, I try to get outside and not put jackets on and just wear a, tank top and let myself be cold. So it's funny, all these different devices cost money, but if you want to do it free, that's how originally ancestors did it.
Right. Yeah. Depending on where you live. I mean, hot and cold therapy are great for recovery too. I mean, I naturally get the hot or heat therapy here in Vegas. It's so darn hot most of the year, but, and a little bit in the winter, I can get some cold, but yeah, like you said, just go outside and force yourself to be uncomfortable. That's where the growth happens. But you're right. We're all comfortable all day long.
So going back to evening time, preparing us to sleep, a big thing I found for me is not to eat at night. So I usually have my big meal about 2:00 in the afternoon. Again, I don't have a family to have a formal dinner at night. So we stop eating usually, by 4:00. But weekends, it's funny, a different experiment I unintentionally did for last Friday is that we ate dinner weekend, usually eat out Friday or Saturday. And I had a bowl of ground beef with some goat cheese, and because we got home late and still wanted to have dinner. And I had the worst sleep because I was eating a high protein meal before bed, and my body likes to eat big meal at 2. That's mostly protein, and it takes long to break down. So for me, I know, and I tell my clients is stop eating 3 hours before bed, but really is what we've talked before about on our coaching program is saving your carbs for bedtime. And I really found that, it doesn't mean a high carb meal, but just saving most of your carbs for evening time dinner. Cause I found myself having all protein and some fat on it was not good. My deep sleep was 30% the night before, which is good. Went to 5% Friday night. I had horrible sleep scores. So it makes you realize that your body's busy trying to digest that meat while you're sleeping, instead of working on recovery, repair, and detoxification in that deep sleep, which for me, because I can track it on my Aura, I go to bed early, like at 8, or weekends, 10:00 is my late night, that I have deep sleep, like 9:00 to 12 a.m., 1:00. So if I'm digesting my food, my deep sleep is not happening. So it's really interesting to see that own unintentional experiment, but really looking at what you eat, when you eat, how and why, and how that affects your sleep and recovery.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so cool that you notice that. And I can feel that as well. If I eat out, it's so funny when I'm in charge of booking the reservation for dinner to go out with friends or whatever. I'm like, can we eat at 5:30? And everyone makes fun of me. They're like, is that the early bird special?
Yeah.
And then I have people that want to eat out at 8:00 at night. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just can't. I'm the same way because I'm in bed at 10:00. So I like to finish eating by 7 at the latest. So 3 hours seems to be a good rule. But yeah, that higher protein, higher fat, because it takes so much time to digest and break down. Yeah. I'll see an elevation in body temperature, heart rate. So my resting heart rate will be higher for the night, and then definitely less deep sleep, because my deep sleep, like you, is usually like 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. is where I get most of that. And then also saving carbs for dinner time. Yeah. I think I probably originally learned that from Ben, but that works well for me too. And with my CGM at breakfast, if I do just like protein, fat, maybe some like low glycemic vegetables, maybe a little bit of sweet potato I can get in there maybe. But if I do mostly that, my blood sugar is super stable the whole day. Like breakfast sets me up for that. And then I work out around 4 or 5 p.m., do my carbs after that, finish dinner by 7, in bed at 10, and it's perfect. Now life happens. That doesn't get to happen every single day, especially on the weekends, but I feel so much better when I can do that.
Yeah. And I think that's probably what you're great at, is personalizing nutrition. And I think as health coaches, we are working on personalizing your nutrition and lifestyle health habits and everything throughout the day. That's really looking at the ideal day schedule is just writing out for someone like, here's your ideal day with all your lifestyle habits and if we need supplements and when to eat and what to eat. But how do you find it best to figure out what that person should eat and when? Is it like always kind of intermittent fasting, or, how do you know to help them?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's a little bit of trial and error. I would say in general, fasting for women, my go-to is let's try 12 to 14 hours fasting overnight. Men, let's try 16 hours. And then we can work, forwards and backwards from there to see how that works. I find most people do better with, like what we just said, more protein and fat at breakfast, cycling and more carbs at dinner time. There are some people that I see, I don't know if it's more genetics or their metabolic typing, that they just do better with more carbs throughout the day. I'd be curious to hear what your thoughts are on that too. Since we're both Paul Chek, certified, that's where I first learned about metabolic typing. And I always thought like, oh, I'm a protein type. And maybe there's some truth to that. But yeah, I think trial and error, but also I would say getting people off of snacking. The only people I find need snacks are those that are just so metabolically unhealthy right now. They're stressed, they're insulin resistant. It's like we almost need to hold their hand as we take them off of the snacks. So sometimes it takes time, but I think if we can just do 2 or 3 meals a day, that's where I see people really thrive, but that doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah. And I think athletes will start to snack more. And I always call it, mindful eating versus mindless eating. And I think a lot of people think, I just exercised, I can eat whatever I want. So I think that's where it comes to what the podcast was originally about, low carb athlete, that you don't need to eat so many carbohydrates, because of endurance athletes should be more burning fat if they're training right. And then we're more, metabolically efficient, but really looking at eating real food is what I find important. And then metabolic typing is what we do for the Paul Chek's program, and FDN practitioners and Ben, we all look at metabolic typing in a way and figure out that personalized nutrition, and looking at genetics and looking at, how do you feel in that? But we were talking before we started, intuitive eating, and what I'm calling for athletes, intuitive fueling and intuitive training. And really, what have you found that helps people learn how to listen to what their body needs and how to be more of an intuitive eater? The tough part.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, intuitive eating definitely doesn't happen overnight. I mean, back in my ballet days, I had a very, very unhealthy relationship with food and restrictive eating. But now, like 20 years later, I can just walk in the kitchen and be like, this is what my body needs. I can just feel it. But that, like I said, that takes time. And I think that's where the data can be really helpful, like combining whatever kind of data you want to use, whether it's a CGM or an Aura or a BioStrap, where you're looking more at, your sleep, your HRV, your heart rate, body temperature, glucose, obviously, looking at that, and then journaling with it. So really looking at, what was I eating that day at this time that this happened? How was I feeling? How was my digestion, my energy, my stress? Journal as much as you can. And you kind of have to be a detective for yourself. And that's where the biohacking piece comes in. Looking at the data, looking at the journaling, putting it together, saying, how do I feel? And over weeks and months of doing that, you will literally feel it in your body and know what your body needs. Just give yourself time.
Do you ever do what my sister-in-law does? This is close your eyes and you ask your body what it wants. And if it leans to the left, it means this. Leans to the right, it means no, or I don't know what it is, but she can say yes or no. I forget which way is yes, but some people can feel that.
I've had a couple of patients that are so energetically sensitive that they'll hold the food on their chest. And if they lean forward, it
that's
means
what
yes.
it is.
And if they fall back, it means no.
Yes.
I can't say that I can feel it like that. And just like, sometimes my body is like, you need a green salad right now. You just need a salad. Or sometimes it's like, you need a piece of beef to get whatever iron or B12 or carnitine. Like it's something that your body's craving.
So that's a good topic to chat about a little bit, is protein. We're talking about this in our group, and 0.5 to 0.8 protein grams per body weight. And then there's Dr. Gabrielle Leon that's been on the show talking about 1 gram per your goal of protein gram of protein per your goal body weight. So if you want to weigh 140 pounds, that's how much protein you should have, 140 grams of protein a day. And I hear both, you hear that 0.8 is the top end because you only can absorb so much. We should only have 20 to 40 grams of protein, max 40, like 20 to 30, I hear is more ideal to help digestion, and take, 4 hours in between having that again. But then what I was talking about in our group last month is like, all right, well, if I'm doing a 16-8, I have an 8-hour eating window. How am I going to fit all that in when I'm only hungry like 2 meals a day, but I need to get 140 grams of protein? So 2 questions. What's your kind of take on what is the right amount of protein for us to figure out? And, do you find most people struggle to get enough protein in a day?
Yeah. Oh, protein, such a good topic. And I mean, Gabrielle, she's kind of like the queen of that topic, and it's hard to argue what she is saying because she looks phenomenal. She's having great success with clients. So yeah, it's like hard to argue that. I would say 0.8 is like a good starting point. I think, for the average person that is, more active, they're working out, I feel like 0.8 is at least a good starting point. For me, I'm probably closer to I'm like 0.8, 0.85 on like a typical day, but I always do digestive enzymes with my higher protein meals. I love Masszymes from Bioptimizers. Because that's the other thing is like, can you digest 40 grams of protein in one sitting? I don't really know. That does seem like a lot, but if we can use the enzymes like Masszymes, I think we can take advantage of that, increase the protein bioavailability. And also using things like essential amino acids or protein powder where it is much more absorbed, I think can be a good way to go. Like I count the EAAs in my, 90 plus grams of protein a day. What was your other question? Now I'm forgetting.
Oh, I asked like too many at once. I think just how much to have and like how to fit it in a window, but you already kind of answered that.
Yeah. Well, I would say the other thing is like the OMAD. I see a handful of men thrive on OMAD, but I think it is a very small group. And I have not seen many women do well with that. Because again, if you're trying to eat, for men, maybe it's a 2,000 calorie meal at one time. I just don't know how that could be good for your digestive system.
Yeah. Well, that's what I found. I was doing OMAD a lot, too much. And that's kind of what I'm trying to share more in this season of the podcast, is too much fasting for athletes and the female athlete, and, looking at your cycle and matching your nutrition and exercise with your cycle. But I think, getting enough protein in, especially I just turned 50. So I want to make sure I'm trying to lift weights more, heavy weights, and do more protein. And I think it is, looking at, are you able to digest and absorb that? And I know when I started to eat more red meat just a few years ago, TMI, but I was throwing up. I couldn't digest it. And if I ate close to bed, I wake up in the middle of the night, I was throwing up. So it's a big share there, but it's just to teach people that, it takes a lot to digest meat. And if you're not used to digesting it, you need to have the digestive enzymes as Biooptimizers, Masszymes. But also if you have H. pylori, you want to test that before you start taking HCl, and then how much to dose there. There's HCl tests. But I think a lot of people due to stress have higher levels of H. pylori. So they, trying to force down all this meat that we're told we're supposed to have now, and really, try that out on your body. Just take your time, eat smaller meals. Don't try to fit it in all in one meal in one sitting, that you can't digest all that. And especially if you have stress issues and you have poor digestion, as stomach acid needs to be acidic, 1.5 to 3.0 pH scale. So most of us are not acidic enough to break down that protein into aminos. So then it's just sitting there for hours and then it's going to disrupt your sleep. Yeah. So it's just not moving. What I was working on with people is like north to south. As a nutritional therapy practitioner, we work north and in that parasympathetic state, work on slowing down, focus on your eating and chewing your food and all that we talk about. But it's really having more protein so important, but it's, are you able to digest and absorb it is just as important. You are what you eat, but you are what you're able to absorb and break down.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And Wade Lightheart talks about that a lot. I think that's super important. And the thing with the HCl or the stomach acid is I see a lot of vegans, vegetarians that they're like, I try to eat meat. Like you said, I just can't, I get sick. And I think it's because the stomach acid, it's, your body is trying to adapt to what you're eating. And when you're not eating meat, you don't need as much of that acid. So especially if you're a vegan, vegetarian, and you're trying to add meat in, go slow. Do a GI test. See, is it H. pylori? Are there other pathogens? Anything going on? Do you need HCl? Do you need digestive enzymes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're talking all sorts of different topics. We were focusing on recovery and sleep. So just tie it back together. Talk about anything else that you found with recovery that's, I know my recovery score, I think for athletes, I'll just add in to start tips for recovery. I had a really good score yesterday because it was my rest day and I did yoga and I went for a walk backwards, did our backwards walking up the hill. Nice. And did just more mobility work at the gym last night in upper body. And I really prioritized my sleep. Just when you've had adrenal exhaustion and that 2 a.m. wide awake is just forever damaging my fear of don't mess with my sleep ever again. And I think, making sure athletes have recovery days as, 1 or 2 days a week that you're doing the active recovery and kind of altering your training schedule based on that score, I think is really, instead of going for an interval run that day and because your score is bad, let's go for a nice walk with some run intervals, more walking based. So anything that we missed today on our ramblings on recovery and sleep and
health? I think just a little bit more with the cold and heat. Of course, doing the free stuff, just getting outside and being uncomfortable. But if you do have access to cryotherapy or cold plunge or a sauna, infrared sauna, that's really helpful, especially with the heat shock proteins. We see amazing recovery post-workout with the sauna. And then peptides. I don't know if you've talked about peptides much on the show. I think if you have access to that, peptides can be a really powerful biohack for recovery.
Yeah, that's a whole show I want to do is peptides, just listening or reading. Ben Greenfield had the 3-part series and, on peptides. And my client was interested in peptides for healing his leaky guts and chronic inflammation in his body from gut damage. And so it's just, such a big topic. Dive into peptides is like, wow, that's another big rabbit hole to
Oh yeah, you could definitely do a whole episode. I know Lauren and I were just saying we need to do a full episode on peptides.
Yeah, so
it's
much.
A whole other bag. But and then the recovery, I think just listen to your body. Like you said, with the waking up at 2 a.m. and we both have been in that place where, my adrenal issues, I was sleeping like 13, 14 hours a night, just couldn't sleep enough. It was just crazy. I'd wake up still tired. I don't ever want to get to that point again. So everything I can do to prevent that from happening. So prioritize your sleep, get outside, listen to your recovery scores, get that intuition, figure out the right diet for you.
Yeah.
Be a biohacker.
Looking at your sleep scores is just pulling mine up, cause then you can see what your normal is and find out where you're at. Cause my husband's just looking at his HRV. I don't know if he listens to this or not, but it was 50 or something or 40. I was like, that's so weird. You're so low, but that's his normal. Mine's been 134 today is my average and max 194, but it's been down the other week to like 70 when I was fighting a cold or something going on. But just learning how to know what this information you get from whatever device you use to track your sleep is that finding that's your average, your normal. And then how to tweak and test and tag, like it's my menstrual cycle, or tag that I ate protein at 8 o'clock at night, and really use this information to make that N=1 experiment to figure out what doesn't work and what does work. And then, looking at your sleep cave, you're talking about the colder room and doing all those different pre-bed hygiene routine. Like I go to bed like 8 o'clock, but I don't go right to bed. Like you said, I wash my face. I read in my book, at least 3 pages. I write my gratitude journal. I set my intentions for the next day. I have this whole routine, and I'm trying to add 5 minutes of stretching in there as well. And because my goal right now is my hip mobility. So I'm trying to do some stretching because that always helps me sleep as well. Is just doing a little 5-minute yin yoga. We were trying to do 20 minutes and then you never do it because like, oh, I don't have 20 minutes. But if I say 5 minutes, I can fit in, 3-5 minutes of something. So
yeah, that's a good trick.
Anyways, I think just adding those little routines in is something you can do. Just know that to get ready for bed at 9 o'clock, you might need to start at 8 o'clock.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, actually even my Oura ring will say that my ideal bedtime is 8:45 to 9:45. And at 7 o'clock, my Oura ring will say, time to start getting ready for bed. Like, oh my gosh, it's 7, but
okay. Mine says that at 5:30 at night. I'm going to the gym. Like, okay, this is a little early, but I feel really that lame person that you're telling me now. So anyway, so where are you going to be this year? You're going to PaleoFX. We both will be there.
We'll see you at PaleoFX. Biohacking Congress is in March in Vegas.
That's right. I have that on my calendar.
Which
is, what's the date? Is that one?
March 19th to 20th.
Okay.
I have a ticket if you would like one.
I'll see if that works. I've got multiple things going on in every weekend in March, but I think that weekend's open. Okay. And then are you going to Santa Barbara Metabolic Health Summit?
That is like the next on my list. I'm debating because I'm like you of May. I have every weekend booked. And then now Biohacking Conference in September in LA. Oh, I just want to do everything.
I know. Well, it's so nice to have conferences again and to connect with people. So
fun.
Keep me in the loop. And I know for sure I'll see you in end of April is PaleoFX. If anyone's going there, we can do a little meetup with everyone. And I know I'll be at KetoCon in Austin again in July when I'm just like sweating buckets.
Yeah. Why would they do that in July? That's painful.
Especially when you go running. It's really funny when you go running in Austin or anywhere like that, humid in the morning, and you're just drenched. And there's a reason I found, or you want to tell them to do this at the front desk, the door, the valet people, make sure they have towels because you do not want to go up to the elevator soaking wet, dripping sweat. It's very embarrassing. So you want to make sure you get a someone at the hotel front desk to have a towel for you after you've done your run because you'll be soaking wet.
July. Yeah. I was in Austin last July and I couldn't wait to go home to Vegas. That's how hot Austin was.
Dry heat.
The dry heat. Yeah. I'll take it.
That's funny. Yeah. And then in August or July, supposedly I'll be in Las Vegas for the Idea World Convention, but they're probably going to cancel it because they're weird like that. But it's in July in Vegas this year.
Cool. Well, they have time. Maybe it'll still happen.
Yeah. I think they're afraid of everything. So anyways, so fun to chat with you about all things health and performance and longevity. And we will all listen to the Biohacker Babes podcast and learn more from you two beautiful girls on how we can do some new hacks and learn how to be our best self.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me on. I can't wait to have you on the Biohacker Babes podcast and see you in Austin.
Yay. Thank you.